I never asked for this, but I have been chosen.
I play Vernon Howell and David Koresh. We first meet Vernon Howell in Mount Carmel, where he goes to learn from a new messiah named Lois Roden. He comes from a very troubled past, and you see this incredible arc of this character who is very insecure to this self-proclaimed messiah.
God's given me a new name, David Koresh. From now on, you will call me by my name.
He seems very shy and backward and very young, but somehow there's this weird confidence about him. I think everyone notices that, and it's not lost on Lois. Lois Roden and her husband had made a sect that had broken off from the Seventh-day Adventists called the Branch, and her husband was the prophet. And then when he died, she became the prophet. Her philosophy that made her the leader was that she thought the Holy Trinity was there was a Father, Son, and that the Holy Spirit was feminine.
Lois is right. I never saw it before, but she's mentioned all over the Old Testament. Proverbs 31:25. She is clothed with strength and dignity, and she laughs without fear of the future.
Vernon has this encyclopedic knowledge of the scriptures, which is very impressive, especially to someone like Lois.
Better be careful.
He has a gift. It's nothing to fear.
George is the rightful heir of the prophecy at Mount Carmel. He was following in his father's footsteps, not necessarily from a religious standpoint, but certainly from one of power. He's discovering what he feels are the lies, the deceit, the con artist that he believes David is.
Ruth came from Canada to Mount Carmel as a devotee of Lois Roden. I think faith means love to Ruth. I know it means safety. I know it means family and community. It's what she felt in David Koresh. I think Ruth is just swept off her feet by his magic.
Kindred spirits, I guess.
It becomes clear that David is an extremely charismatic individual.
I'm stronger than they realize. And so are you, Clive Doyle.
Clive was born in Melbourne, Australia, and immigrated to the United States. And so he had been at Waco for 15, 16 years before Vernon Howell even arrived. I think Clive had been bullied a great deal as a kid. And when he meets David, who is Vernon, there are a lot of parallels in David's life. David had dealt with a lot of abuse and bullying. He had a stutter, and he had a hard time kind of finding his footing and fitting in. So they kind of connect on that level, and he has a way of drawing these people who have faced challenges in their lives to him, like, you know, moths to the flame.
David also had a way with people. He found out what people were good at and where they had insecurities, perhaps, and he was good at using those things to recruit. Paul is an entrepreneur, comes from an entrepreneurial family. He was running a very successful bus business, and then eventually went to Texas and met David. He was donating to the organization, but felt hypocritical not being there, not being involved, and not experiencing David's teachings. So he went there seeking truth.
Livingstone was born in Jamaica, and he moved with his family to England. He eventually went on to the Seventh-day Adventist College. At that time, he met David Koresh in a meeting where he was preaching and speaking his word, and from there, his life completely changed. And he was convinced and attached to him and moved to Waco. I believe, especially during the trial, Livingstone was very committed to David. If he had a lot of doubts, I don't believe that he showed them.
When those agents approached Mount Carmel to do their legal duty, the defendants laid in wait with guns in their hands.
I play the prosecutor, Bill Johnston. I think my character views the Waco siege and fire as a failure and a painful experience for all parties involved, but to the core of him, he believes that the surviving members of the fire who are on trial are guilty of the murder of federal agents.
The government refuses to take responsibility for its actions, but that malfeasance, that arrogance, has dangerous consequences for my clients and for the rest of this country.
Dan Cogdell is just cut from a different cloth as far as defense attorneys go. Waco, I think his focus was about the injustices from the ATF and the FBI. and knowing that if they win this trial, that sets a precedent for the future of the American justice system.
If any one of you pull the trigger of a gun, then you all pull the trigger. You're gonna rise and fall together.
The nature of a conspiracy charge is that if one person is found guilty, then collectively the whole group goes down with that person. That's just another factor that just makes this seem and feel impossible.
We need to show the jury that this is a story about failed leadership on both sides.